everybody who may be listening. This is ZS1 Delta Foxtrot Romeo, operating ZS1 Delta Zulu, the station of the Western Cape region of HAMNET in South Africa, with headquarters situated at Tygerberg Hospital Provincial Emergency Management Center. And I have here for you a weekly bulletin for those interested in emergency communications in the Western Cape or further afield. The bulletin is transmitted on the 145.7 MHz repeater in Cape Town on Constantiaberg Mountain, and we have relays onto upper sideband on the 2-meter band 144.300 by courtesy of Sean, ZS1 Golf Alpha Fox. We have a relay onto Echolink, which is where the Bali station was calling from. The Echolink channel is ZS1 Delta Charlie Charlie -Romeo, and that is organized by remote relay by ZS1 Oscar Sierra Sierra, taking the 700 transmission, or the reception on the 700 I should say, and relaying it onto Echolink. He's also, that's Donnie of course, ZS1 Oscar Sierra Sierra, he's also doing the same onto 80 meters, 3770 kilohertz lower sideband, and that's also operating. And then finally, ZS1 Oscar Sierra Sierra is also putting a relay onto Open Web RX, which is an internet-linked stream which you can access to be able to hear what's going on here on your computer by going to the following URL, and that is https:// India Tango .Lima Yankee / HAMNET WC Bulletin. Stand by, please.
Please repeat again your call sign, complete call sign. Repeat again your complete call sign. This is Yankee Golf 9 Echo Papa Juliet. Repeat again your complete call sign. But I can do compliment at my from KSL.
Okay, I got it that time. Yankee Golf 9 Echo Papa Juliet. Yankee Golf 9 Echo Papa Juliet. My call sign is Zulu Sierra number 1 Delta Foxtrot Romeo, and I am transmitting a bulletin station Zulu Sierra 1 Delta Zulu in Cape Town, South Africa. With permission, I'm going to go on with the bulletin, if you don't mind. This is a news broadcast. I'm going to repeat that Open Web RX again, if you don't mind. https:// Bravo India Tango .Lima Yankee / HAMNET WC Bulletin, all in one word. And then you can listen to this on the internet. So my apologies to Yankee Golf 9 Echo Papa Juliet, but I have to transmit a set of news now between 19 hours 30 Bravo time and about 20 hours 30. And then this Echolink node will be open for routine QSOs again. I do apologize. On 2 meters FM so far, I have heard ZS1 Papa Echo, ZS1 Fox Papa, and ZR1 Fox Romeo have called in on 2 meters FM. If there's anybody listening on 2 meters FM who would like to call in now to signify their presence, please go ahead, ZS1 DZ.
ZS1 Bravo Tango Delta, good evening.
Victor Fox Romeo, good evening.
ZS1 Mike Golf Lima, good evening all.
ZS1 Lima Echo Mike, good evening Dave.
ZS1 Sierra Juliet with 144-300 as well as 80 meters loud and clear.
Good evening from ZS1 Romeo Bravo Tango. Good evening all, ZS1 Lima Romeo with a 59 signal on 3770, 59 signal, ZS1 Lima Romeo.
Charlie Hotel.
Okay, thank you to that group who called in. I heard Brian, ZS1 Bravo Tango Delta, Calvin, ZS1 Victor Foxtrot Romeo, Mark, ZS1 Mike Golf Lima, Lem, ZS1 Lima Echo Mike, Sabrunt, ZS1 Sierra Juliet, hearing also 2 meters upper sideband and 80 meters. James, ZS1 Romeo Bravo Tango, Henny, ZS1 Lima Romeo, who can also hear 80 meters 5 and 9. Thank you, Henny. And then a station that ended Charlie Hotel, I'm sure that's Donnie, ZS1 Sierra Charlie Hotel. But you were doubling, or somebody else was doubling with you, so I missed the first part of your call sign. I'm sure it was Sierra Charlie Hotel, so I don't need to ask you to come back again. But that other station I didn't hear, and then there's a station after you that was very soft, mostly noise and virtually no audio. That usually means is Tango Victor Sierra, is tennis and series. So if it was you, tennis, don't call in now. Let me just hear the other station that called, doubled with Donnie, ZS1 Sierra Charlie Hotel. That station, please repeat. Go ahead.
ZS1 Zulu Alpha Romeo.
Good evening from ZS1 Zulu Victor.
ZS1 Mike Juliet Tango.
Foxtrot Kilo.
ZS1 Bravo Victor Zulu Portable.
Good evening all from ZS1 Oscar Sierra Kilo.
Okay, thank you to that very nice group. We started with ZS1 Zulu Romeo, is John. I think that you must have been the one that was doubling with Donnie. And then we had Fred, ZS1 Zulu Victor, and then Michael, ZS1 Mike Juliet Tango. Good evening, Michael. Who doubled with Yanni, ZS1 Juliet Foxtrot Kilo, but both voices easily identified. Then we had Brian, ZS1 Bravo Victor Zulu, who's portable. I don't know whether that means he's walking the dogs or whether he's just talking on his handheld. Followed by Ian, ZS1 Oscar Sierra Kilo. There was also the station that was just noise. I could not hear an audio. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, if the station is ZS1 Tango Victor Sierra, please call again now. If it is not ZS1 Tango Victor Sierra, please do not call now. Let's just see if we can hear, if we don't hear Tennis's voice, if there is an answer, then we know it's Tennis. So if it's you, Tennis, please talk now. ZS1 Tango Victor Sierra, ZS1 DZ. There you go. That's the clearest I heard you, Tennis. Tango Victor Sierra. I got your call sign that time. I didn't get your call sign on the 2 previous times. So thanks for calling in. Okay, so if there's one last call for anybody else who'd like to call through, please try now, ZS1 DZ.
Bravo Romeo. Dave, I think you missed one station there. I heard a Zulu Alpha Romeo. Over.
Yeah, there were 2 stations doubling there. I heard you, Ian, ZS1 Bravo Romeo, saying that you thought I heard Zulu Alpha Romeo. I heard Zulu Romeo. Was there a Zulu Alpha Romeo? Please call again.
ZS1 Zulu Alpha Romeo. Good evening, everybody.
Oh, I beg your pardon. All right, I didn't hear you. That's a new call sign to me, sir. Zulu Alpha Romeo. My name is Dave, obviously Delta Foxtrot Romeo. And Zulu Alpha Romeo, I do not know your first name, so please tell me your first name and also which suburb you're in. Over.
It is ZS1 ZAR. The name is Rian. Romeo India Alpha Alpha November. QTH Brackenfell.
Good stuff, Rian. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining in. I hope you'll stay with us every Wednesday. It's certainly a new call sign to me. I keep a database of folks who have called in over the years, and your name isn't on that database, so I apologize if I have left you out before. But thanks very much. Right, and thanks Ian Bradley, Bravo Romeo, for drawing my attention to that. Is there one last chance that somebody wants to call in? Go ahead.
That is 1 Sierra Alpha.
Zulu Romeo 1 Sierra Whiskey Bravo.
Good evening, it is 1 Sierra Papa Charlie.
It is 1 Alpha Mike Sierra.
ZS1 Lima Echo Delta. Evening to everyone. Busy evening.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Thank you very much to everybody who supports this channel. Very kind of you. There was one station right at the beginning that I missed, but the station after that was Rob, ZS1 Sierra Alpha. Good evening to you at University Estate. ZR1 Sierra Whiskey Bravo Skulk, good evening, and Shafiq, ZS1 Sierra Papa Charlie, and ZS1 Alpha Mike Sierra, and Sean, ZS1 Lima Echo Delta, whose audio is quite low this evening, Sean. I actually think, watching you transmit at Tigerberg the other day, I think your microphone is too far away from your face. So I can hear your voice, but it's very soft, and in bad conditions it would be difficult to hear what you were saying. But I think that accounts for everybody. I'm sure I haven't left anybody out, and we're taking a long time at this, so I think I better just move on. On upper sideband, Davy and Sabrant indicated that they could hear everything. On Echo Link, I can see Dani, ZS1 Oscar Sierra Sierra, James, ZS1 Romeo Bravo Tango, our good friend from Division 2, Zulu Romeo 2, a Criminal Investigation Agency, or whatever it is, Central Intelligence Agency, I beg your pardon, Wayne, who calls in every week, and Stan, ZS1 Hotel Charlie, good evening to you. Unfortunately, Yankee Golf 9 Echo Papa Juliet from Bali, I couldn't really carry on with that. It would have messed up the bulletin too much, and he seems to have left. I do apologize for that bad hospitality on my part. And then on 80 meters, again, Davy, Z1FR, Sabrant, ZS1 Sierra Juliet, and Henny, ZS1 Lima Romeo. I don't have any formal apologies this evening, so we'll leave it at that. The weather this evening, the sun rose at 5:37 this morning, and it's set this evening at 7:21, which is about 20 minutes ago, giving us a daytime or daylight time of 13 hours and 43 minutes. And when you think about it, we're not very far away from the summer solstice already. Can you believe it? I think it's, how many minutes? It's 14 hours and, I can't remember, 34 minutes or something like that is the longest it gets. Anyway, the wind has been blowing from the south most of today, although we did have some rain this morning, 2.8 millimeters at this QTH. Maximum temperature just over 20, and a minimum about just short of 15, but it's 16.7 at the moment outside, 24 in. 75% humidity right now, and the wind is blowing at about 20 kilometers an hour. There was obviously a cold front that went past, and what's happened is the barometer's gone right up. I'll tell you about that in a moment. Please stand by while I reset the timer. So the lowest point the barometer was at in the last week was last Thursday night, when it was 1008.5, 1008.5 millibars. It wobbled a bit and then it climbed into the early teens, 1012 and 1013, 1014, and it wandered around there for the rest of the week. And then by early this morning it was 1014.5, and then it suddenly shot up before lunch today, and that was when we had the rain. It got to 1018, but it's dropped back a bit to 1017.5 now. So the barometric pressure at the moment, 1017.5, and the forecast is for good weather in the next few days. I'll tell you about the synoptic chart and the meteosat photos and all that sort of thing a little bit later. What have I got for you tonight? Well, I'm going to start immediately by telling you that there was last week a Aeronautical Rescue Coordination Center talk, a virtual talk on the internet last Thursday night. It started at about 6:15, if I remember correctly, and it was due to be given by a few people coming on the virtual band, so to speak. But unfortunately, one of the speakers lost connectivity, and so the meeting was aborted halfway, and Michael tells me it's going to carry on again tomorrow night, starting at 6 o'clock. He has the audacity to ask me to read out a URL to you that is about a yard long. So if I read that URL out, you will have all fallen asleep before the bulletin begins, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to say that if you listened to the talk last week and want to go to it again this week, it's probably the same URL. And if it isn't, too bad. You sort it out, Michael. I'm not going to HI. For the rest, I've got the Amateur Radio Today bulletin coming next, then a little mention about Southgate Amateur Radio News and about Quebec Oscar 100, some earthquakes, foundations from ONO, some work to be done at DZ and DCC in the next few days, a little bit about drones and a little bit about an interesting application for cell phones, followed by the repeater working group status report, and then the usual weather palaver that ends at that comes at the end. So I think there's enough to keep us busy for a while, so I'm just going to reset the timer, and I'll come straight back with the Amateur Radio Today bulletin for last Sunday. This is ZS1DZ. It's Wednesday night, the 9th of November. Please stand by. I have an idea. I said it was the 6th of November. Of course, it's the 9th of November. It was the 6th of November when I wrote this. Last Saturday night, which was about 10 days ago, tens of thousands of boisterous young South Koreans, freed at last of pandemic restrictions, surged into a Seoul nightlife neighborhood to celebrate Halloween. And more than 150 of them died in a narrow alleyway in Itaewon, which is a popular entertainment district in central Seoul, where they had crammed in to enjoy an October evening out. While government officials have been mostly tight-lipped about what went wrong in Itaewon on Saturday evening, saying only that they were all caught off guard, many are already placing blame for one of the worst peacetime disasters in South Korea's history on the failure to police the crowd, even as it became evident that things were getting out of control. Even on an ordinary weekend, the neighborhood attracts a crowd, but this promised to be no ordinary weekend, and while the investigation was still continuing, on Monday questions were being raised about why no police officers were in Itaewon to provide crowd control at a well-known choke point near a busy subway station exit and a tight alleyway known for its high foot traffic. As South Korea grappled to understand how a tragedy of this scale could have happened, no government agency seemed prepared to take full responsibility for the scores of people who were killed. Last Sunday evening, which is now a day later than that, but still 10 days ago, India time, at least 141 people fell to their deaths in a river below when an 140-year-old suspension bridge gave way. The bridge is a major tourist attraction in the town of Morbi, which is in Gujarat state. It had recently been repaired and only reopened a week before the tragedy. The spokesman of the company which manages the bridge said that there were too many people in the midsection and they were trying to sway it from one side to the other. That doesn't seem to be a good thing to do with a 140-year-old suspension bridge. That's my opinion. Nevertheless, Police arrested 9 people from the firm contracted to maintain and operate the bridge on charges that amount to culpable homicide. I'm sure it will be difficult to apportion blame when the pedestrians were actively testing the vulnerability of the structure. And then at midweek of last week, that's about today, a week ago, GDAX was reporting the tropical cyclone Nalgai, which is known as Payeng in the Philippines, had crossed the central northern Philippines on the 28th to the 30th of October, bringing heavy rain, strong winds and storm surges that caused floods, landslides and severe weather-related incidents across most parts of the country. Please stand by. According to the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, 98 people died, 63 were still missing, and 69 had been injured. In addition, almost 1 million people were displaced, more than 100,000 preemptively evacuated, and almost 2 million affected across 17 regions. The most affected regions are Baram in the southern Philippines with 53 fatalities and almost 400,000 affected people, and Western Visayas in the central western Philippines with 19 fatalities and more than 800,000 people affected. So that's 3 ghastly tragedies over a weekend when Halloween fun and pleasure should have been the most important memories. Now Michael, ZS1 Mike Juliet Tango, and Dani, ZS1 OSS, both sent me reports on the IARU Region 1 Quebec Oscar 100 satellite communications exercise held last Saturday morning, the 29th of October. Between them, they say that the idea was to register a capable microwave station with the organizer, Greg Mossop, Golf 0 Delta Uniform Bravo, and the message would then at some stage through the exercise be sent to that participant via a net control system station, call sign Golf 4 November Romeo Charlie, thereby giving each station the opportunity to be involved, to send and receive messages, and test and play with the setup. Michael wants to know, where would the fun in our hobby be if we were not playing? Quite correct. It took our fellows no longer than 10 minutes to set up James, ZS1 RBT station. I suppose it was James who did it basically, and align the dish towards the satellite. The station operated without any internet or grid power, and it's a very neat and compact installation, and there's a photograph there in the report if you haven't seen it. James explained to the participants what all the parts in the box were and their use. To avoid major signal loss at microwave frequencies, all components of the entire Quebec Oscar 100 unit should be as close as possible to each other. Otherwise you get RF disturbances and loss. A particular advantage of a Quebec Oscar 100 station is that as long as it is in the satellite's footprint, which basically means southern Africa all the way to the top of Europe, and from the eastern edge of South America to Indonesia, it has a strong and clear signal from anywhere and is not dependent upon times of the day which typically affect HF propagation. The exercise started at 11 hours South African time and went on until 13 hours. They operated under the call sign ZS1 Delta Zulu, and 2 messages were received and in turn 2 replies were sent. Please do stand by, ZS1 DZ. Although all tests on the day were voice tests, the satellite can also handle data such as WinLink, email, FT8, and so on. Michael thanks James for bringing his equipment to Tygerberg Provincial Emergency Management Center where it was set up and operated. He also thanked Alan, ZS1 Alpha Lima, and Dani, ZS1 Oscar Sierra Sierra, for joining and taking part in the exercise. Thank you for the reports, gentlemen. For his part, Greg Mossop, Golf 0 Delta Uniform Bravo, reports that he had 14 stations taking part from 9 countries, and that David, who's Mike 0 Tango Golf Charlie, did a good job running the control station, Golf 4 November Romeo Charlie. Quebec Oscar 100 provides good wide area communication when HF is not consistent and sunspot maximum has not yet arrived. Dani has also reported on the Coburg nuclear exercise, which was held last Friday morning in a virtual form. All the agencies that might have been involved in a radiation risk accident assembled their controllers at Goodwood Disaster Risk Management Center, and a busy morning of role-playing it was too. In Dani's inimitable and capable style, his report is very thorough and comprehensive, but unfortunately too long to include here. Suffice it to say that the Greater Cape Peninsula was saved from a radiation disaster of a virtual kind, and lots of lessons were learnt. And thank you, Dani, for your comprehensive assessment. And I'd like to end by paying tribute to the life of Richard Brunton, Golf 4 Tango Uniform Tango. He single-handedly produced Southgate Amateur Radio News, from which you have heard me quote excerpts so many times in the last 8 years. The behind-the-scenes work he put into scanning the communications world for items to enhance our amateur radio experience was unending. We have lost a huge asset to amateur radio. Our condolences are expressed to his family and friends. And that was the ART bulletin for last Sunday. I'd just like to carry on by reading a paragraph from the Radio Society of Great Britain about Richard Brunton. It says the RSGB is sad to learn of the passing of Richard. For countless years, Richard was editor of the popular Southgate Amateur Radio News website. In fact, he was the Southgate Amateur Radio News website. Every single day, he searched the world's amateur radio and technology resources for stories of interest, and he published them. Richard offered his platform inclusively, commissioning non-commercial podcasts and blogs to promote opinion alongside the conventional news items. Please stand by. Richard also compiled the CQ Serenade weekly program, which was broadcast throughout Europe on shortwave radio.Delta Echo and on other public-facing media. What amazes me is to hear this, that Richard was an intensely private man who had no close family, but he reached thousands of friends daily through his website. Amateur radio has lost a true communicator. So silently, quietly, and single-handedly, he kept Southgate Amateur Radio News going for decades. Quite amazing. We certainly have lost a huge statue of a man. Now, to go on a little bit more about Quebec Oscar, I've got the wrong mouse, hold on. Quebec Oscar 100 and making contacts there. And here's an article from amsat-uk.org, saying, it is understandable that amateur radio operators in North America are disappointed that they cannot experience the fun of using Quebec Oscar 100. However, although the footprint charts that have been published show that it is not possible, there have been recently about the successful Quebec Oscar 100 expedition in Indonesia. In particular, Yankee Charlie 1 Hotel Victor Zulu stroke portable successfully operated through the 100 narrowband transponder from the grid site Oscar Indio 42 Delta Echo, and that's in Indonesia, and that using the satellite when it was at minus 1.2 degrees of elevation under the horizon. So there must have been some what would you call it, ground wave or some sort of bending refraction of the signal round the Earth until it could see the satellite and carry on to the satellite. But anyway, if it's minus 1.2 degrees of elevation, this success suggests that it should contacts through Quebec Oscar 100 from at least one North American location. And the British Amateur Television and examination of the footprint maps and the Quebec Oscar 100 dish pointing tool shows that the historic site at Signal Hill on Newfoundland may be just the location from which to make an attempt. Now looking at that, the elevation will be minus 0.9 degrees. Please stand by, my timer is going off. So the article continues, a lot of challenges to be overcome. Would the usual Quebec Oscar 100 ground station be sufficient, or would a large dish and high power on the 2.4 gigahertz uplink be required? Could activity include operation of digital amateur TV through the wideband transponder? As signals from the ground station will probably be relying on tropospheric ducting for the first few miles, an alternative site lower down near the beach might actually be better. Time of year and what weather conditions might be most favorable. And perhaps the biggest unknown is whether the footprint maps for Quebec Oscar 100 reflect the actual, or is it squinted towards the east by a couple of degrees. So having been involved with supporting the Qatar Amateur Radio Society and the AMSAT-Delta Lima since the inception of Quebec Oscar 100, AMSAT-UK and the British, what does ATC stand for? I can't think. British, BATC would like to establish this challenge, and they will award trophies as follows. A station that succeeds in having the first two-way QSO via Quebec Oscar 100 narrow-band transponder when operating from Newfoundland. There will be a trophy for the station that succeeds in having more than 100 two-way QSOs via the Quebec Oscar 100 narrowband transponder when operating from Newfoundland. And the station that succeeds in having the first two-way digital amateur TV QSO via the Quebec Oscar 100 wideband transponder when operating from Newfoundland. And anybody who does work from Newfoundland will be eligible to apply for a special certificate. And they are busy planning tests and so on. So that should be interesting. You can just see the edge of South America in the footprint of the satellite. I wonder whether you'd be able to see the edge of Newfoundland. It will be an interesting experiment. Now to move on a bit, there have been some earthquakes. I don't know whether you're aware of all this. KwaZulu-Natal had some earthquakes over the weekend. I don't think they were very strong shakes, and they were in the north of KZN, sort of further east than Pietermaritzburg, Newcastle, and further east of that. And as far as I'm aware, there's been no major damage. So that's not really a problem, but there was an earthquake last night at 10:30 our time in Nepal. I'll tell you about in a moment. Please stand by while the timer goes off. It was a magnitude 5.6 earthquake at a depth of 15 kilometers in a central area of Nepal, in an area where about 2,500 people would have been exposed to shaking. And it certainly seems to have had an effect, but on the ground, shall we say, but not on people. There have been no reports of injury or damage. Just to tell you that I'm in blackout at the moment, I better turn off a few things here just to reduce the electrical consumption, but I'm running the PC and the radio on battery. Okay, so two earthquakes. Now, foundations, Onno's got something to say this week. My virtual workbench, in fact, he calls it. And he talks about the ever-increasing pace of innovation and new software being released at an almost alarming rate. He says there is an urge to stay abreast of this process, to update, upgrade, and try new situations as soon as they are new solutions as soon as they are presented to you by well-meaning friends and colleagues. Not to mention, of course, online marketing, reviews, and other enticements that make you click the button to install something to avert the fear of missing out. That's FOMO. If you've done this for a number of years, actually, or a number of weeks, you'll discover that this comes at a cost. One that the corporate world has attempted to address by using terms like standard operating environment, backups, administrative privileges, and other such annoying things that prevent users from trying something new to break them. At home and in the shack, most of that is not a problem. no corporate IT division around to stop you. But soon you'll discover that something you installed caused you grief, encouraged your logging software to stop talking to your radio, prevented your radio from changing frequency, or blocked the latest digital mode from working as intended. Ono says he lives in that world too, but with the benefits of an IT background, I decided nearly a decade and a half ago that enough was enough. I bit the bullet and bought myself a new computer. I vowed to install only one tool on that laptop, which would be a virtualization environment, also known as a hypervisor. It allows you to run a virtual computer inside a window. Given enough CPU power, you can run multiple virtual computers in multiple windows inside your actual physical hardware. Now this gives you flexibility. Please stand by and I'll tell you why. This is ZS1DZ. So, you can run a copy of your favorite operating system in a virtual environment, install the latest and greatest software on it, and if it breaks, you delete it and start again. In my case, I'm running my daily desktop environment where I'm currently writing this as a virtual Linux machine or Linux machine inside my physical computer, which is also running several other virtual machines, including some network monitoring tools, a software-defined radio development environment, my accounting software, and plenty of other things. So each virtual machine is nothing more than a folder on my physical computer, and making a full backup is as simple as making a copy of that folder. Better still, if I want to try a new version of something on a machine that I'm already using, I can duplicate the folder, fire up the copy of the virtual machine, install the new software, and test it. If it works, great. If not, throw it away and start again. So changing physical computers is also simple. Buy a new computer, install the hypervisor, then copy the machine folders across and start working. From a security perspective, it also means that I can install a random bit of software recommended by a friend without getting worried about it stealing any of my information, given that my private information isn't on the virtual machine on which I'm installing this unknown piece of software. I also use this to compile new bits of code. If I come across a project on GitHub that I'd like to try, I can fire up a brand new machine and install all the prerequisites without running the risk of breaking something that I rely on. It also means that I can test with different operating systems, from Mac OS, any flavor of Linux, copies of Windows, and play with virtual copies of Android, or if I'm feeling frisky, BOS. There are other ways to achieve some of this. For example, you could get yourself a Raspberry Pi and half a dozen micro SD cards. Install an operating system onto a card, boot the Pi, install your new application, and if you like it, use it. If not, wipe the card and start again. You can have a dedicated Whisper beacon card, a contest logging card, whatever you need, all separate, all easy to back up and change as needed. And if that's not enough, some virtualization environments allow you to emulate different microprocessors. So you could run ARM code on an x86 processor, or vice versa. And if you want more, you can investigate containerization. This is a tool that allows you essentially to create a mini virtual machine and run a new environment using a single command, so fast that you essentially don't need to wait for it to start up, allowing you to mix and match environments as needed. At this point, you might ask why I'm even talking about this. What does this have to do with amateur radio? Well, it's how I have my test bench set up. Sure, I have a soldering station, some multimeters, a nano vector network analyzer, an antenna analyzer, and all that kind of great stuff, but my radio world is mostly software. And in that space, all my tooling is pretty much virtual, put together in such a way that I can pick and choose precisely how I want to test something without killing something I rely on. I'm telling you about it because in my experience, much of the amateur community still relies on a desktop computer running Windows. And I have to tell you, there is so much more out there for you to explore. So, what does your virtual workbench look like? I'm Ono, Victor Kilo 6, Fox Lima, Alpha Bravo. Always thought-provoking. Now, let me give you a little bit of news about ZS1 Delta Charlie Charlie and ZS1 Delta Zulu link-up. As you probably know, Delta Charlie Charlie has an internet connection. Well, and if you're listening on Echolink, you're using it right now. It's not very stable, and they are hoping to upgrade it. ZS1 Delta Zulu does not have an internet connection because the system that is there is private to the Provincial Emergency Management Center, and they don't want it to be, I wouldn't say hacked, but they don't want to be connected to an amateur agency like HAMNET. So we have arranged, well, I have nothing to do with it, but it has been arranged that there will be a 5 gigahertz link between Tygerberg and Goodwood radio stations installed to be able to run internet and things like WinLink and so on between them. And that involves 2 dishes, 2 LNBs, and the necessary transmit and receive stations down to the radio rooms. And this week we have the services of ZS1 Tango Alpha Foxtrot to climb the towers and do the installation. Hopefully that's going to take place tomorrow morning. I don't think it's going to rain. So that's going to take place tomorrow, and with a bit of luck, things will be up and running within the next few days. And we certainly hope that will be good. Now, both DZ and Delta Charlie Charlie run APRS beacons, and they both transmit, and if you've gone so far as to have an APRS screen, you will see their beacons on your screen. Please stand by while I reset the timer. However, neither station has a wall-sized map or a map of any sort that you can use to plan any kind of strategy that you may need to plan as an emergency communications station. And so what is being investigated now are some 40-inch television screens which can be connected to the APRS station such that you can magnify the size of the map that you're looking at on APRS, and you can scroll around the map and scroll around the country or around the world if you want to. So those 2 advances that are taking place at DZ and Delta Charlie Charlie. And we'll comment on them probably in the course of the next week or so. Now, I want to talk about drones, and I must say, I think of all the things that happened this year, and if you were going to choose one word, the word of the year, it ought to be drone. Drones have been around for a long time, but the actual use of drones has come to full let's say frontal exposure this year. Not mainly because of Ukraine and the Ukraine-Russia war, but for a variety of reasons, because drones get used where is it? Here it is. It's on yahoo.news about the robot dogs, the drone dogs. Look like a dog, but they are super sniffers. They can act like man's best friend, can sniff out chemical leaks, radiation, and bombs. An arm mounted on this metallic dog can move debris like a collapsed wall, clearing the way for medics. The dog can sport an aerial drone on its back that can be launched at ground zero to get an aerial survey, and the operator of that drone can be next to the dog or 500 miles away and can see in every direction. Imagine a scenario in a disastrous situation where it's not safe to send a human. You send the dog in, he'll survey the area and then launch the drone. So now you've got a ground view and an overhead view at the same time. The dog can jog at up to 7 miles per hour on flat terrain, but is also built for sand, water, and uneven surfaces. It can get up or roll over and operate upside down if it flips over. Mountainous terrain, uneven terrain, The robot dog is fantastic. The dog can navigate uneven surfaces and inclines a lot better, a lot more efficiently than humans can. Please stand by. And if the dog slips and falls, he's not going to break his leg. The dog and other technologies were born from the tragedy of 9/11. And FirstNet, a mission to deploy, operate and maintain a high-speed nationwide wireless broadband network to public safety, surveillance and first responders. This is FirstNet. So one of the serious lessons learned from 9/11 was the fact that there was a lack of communications consistency between agencies. Hello, good morning. So with 9/11 you had all those hundreds if not thousands of public safety responders and they couldn't talk to each other. I think we all know about that problem. Anyway, so that's walking dogs, but then you've got flying drones as well, and of course they have been remarkable in the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, from both sides really. Surveillance drones, kamikaze drones, drones that can drop grenades or shrapnel or, bombs or things like that. Quite incredible because, of course, it reduces immensely the risk to human life of somebody flying around in the air and wanting to shoot off a missile or drop a bomb and doesn't want to get shot up, because never mind the aeroplane that you fly in, that costs a lot of money, but to train the pilots and get the pilots flight ready or combat ready can take a decade. So it costs an enormous amount of money to train a pilot. So having an unoccupied flying drone is a remarkable thing. And certainly, if you have been watching the Ukraine-Russia conflict, you'll have seen a lot of mention of drones. It is intriguing that drones turn out to be the what would you call them? The sort of turning point, or the thing that changes the nature of war this year. But another thing I want to tell you about is an application that I discovered about that's on cell phones. I heard about it first in Ukraine, and what had happened was that the Ukraine side of things realized that they needed more surveillance of the skies. So if one of those bomb-type flying kamikaze drones came in, or a missile came in from some point of the compass, that it needed to be reported to the Air Defense Department so they could try and deal with it. And so they developed an app. Well, I thought they developed an app for the first time, and I'll tell you about it, but stand by, my time is going off. So they developed this app which basically looks like, you imagine your smartphone divided into half a screen. The top half has got a compass which rotates just as an electronic compass does when you rotate. So north points, and as you rotate, the north moves around on these compass rows, as you know how it works. And then the lower half of the screen has got drawings or graphic descriptions, pictures of a variety of missiles and flying aircraft and drones and kamikaze drones and things like that. And what happens is, if you are looking up in the sky and you see one of these missiles or airplanes or drones coming past, you point your cell phone at that drone, which then identifies the compass direction that you're seeing it from, and you tap the icon at the bottom of the screen that represents the thing you're seeing. And when you do that, the message of what you've seen is instantly sent to the Air Defense Department, and within seconds they've received possibly 5 or 10 reports, and possibly from different directions, which allows them to triangulate where this actual weapon is coming from, and allows them to try to shoot it down. I can't believe how clever that is. And I thought, goodness gracious, that's another advance for the war between Russia and Ukraine. But the reason why I'm telling you that is because I discovered last week that in fact this has been thought of already. And it goes back to 2014, and the place where something like that had already been used is in the Kruger National Park. I happen to be reading a book written by the retired Defense Force General called Johan Jooste, who took control of the fight against rhino poaching in the Kruger Park when it was in a very bad way. They were losing something more than 1,000 rhinos a year to poaching. And the morale of the rangers was very low, and the successes in catching the poachers and preventing the deaths of the rhinos was very low. And Johan Jooste built the system up and got the morale of the rangers up. He supplied them with good equipment and uniforms and made them proud of themselves. He got housing for them. He got places where their families and children could live with them, radios and all that sort of thing. And in fact, they used an app like this as well. So let me tell you about that once I get past the timer. Please stand by. So one of the things that Johan Jooste managed to organize as a result of huge donations from people like overseas supporters like the Buffett Foundation, the Howard Buffett Foundation. That's the son of Warren Buffett. Anyway, foundations like that donated a huge amount of money, and Johan Jooste managed to get an organized jock going at, I think it was Skakuza, what's that place called? Camp, in the Kruger Park. And the jock could receive messages sent from cell phones. And what their app looked like was the same kind of thing, a compass rose on top half of the screen. And then what had to happen was all the ranger had to do was, if he heard a gunshot, day or night, all he had to do was point his cell phone in the direction of where the gunshot seemed to be coming from and tap the alarm button. And instantly the jock would know that a gunshot had been heard, where it had been heard from. In other words, the position of the cell phone would be visible to the jock, and in which direction the shot had been heard from. And by triangulating with that, they could pinpoint and zero in on where the poachers were far more quickly than they had previously been able to do. And then further, as a result of the donations, they were able to get helicopters with night vision capabilities, train the pilots for night flying, fixed-wing aircraft, drones, radar, and magnetic sensors under the eastern border of the Kruger, where it abuts on Mozambique, so that with anything metal crossed that magnetic sensor under the ground, they would know about it. And in fact, the war against poaching was so successful that by the time the book was published, they were down to something of the order of about 200 rhinos per year, which is still terrible. But at least, and one other thing they managed to do was they rescued, of course, many orphan baby rhinos when the mothers had been shot. Those rhinos, babies, had been allowed to die because there was no way of looking after them. But a welfare organization took those baby rhinos in and nursed them and brought them up and made them into adults and kept the rhino population growing. So it's a tremendous story of success, but I'm actually told you all that to tell you about the app. Don't you think that's clever? This is ZS1 Delta Zulu. Okay, and then finally, I'm sorry the bulletin's gone on so long. We're going to go into the repeater working group status report, which is issued this morning by Paul, or it might have been last night, but I got it in my mail this morning. A cash donation was received from Anton, ZR1 Romeo Alpha, on the 31st of August, which is a long time ago, and another one from Marius Libba, ZS1 Mike Lima, on the 1st of November. Thank you very much to these two kind gentlemen. The repeater working group status report is unchanged, so I can tell you that all the usual things work and all the usual things don't work. As you know, the Onrusberg or Hermanus repeater has been taken down. You also know that the Dana Bay UHF link between Riversdale and George is not functioning. And then you also know that the UHF link that would link Hanskop, the 145-600 repeater, with Havakwa, the 145.650 repeater on De Toys Kloof, is also not working. So those links don't work. But the repeaters themselves all work fine. So to save you from frank boredom, I'm not going to go right through the report, but of course you know how to get it. You go to the website www.wcrwg.co.za, and there you'll find what I've just told you and the status of every repeater around the Western Cape, and also the account information for the First National Bank account to which you can make a donation if you have some spare greenbacks in your back pocket, and we sincerely hope that you will, to help the repeater working group maintain the repeaters so that we can use them as we are doing tonight. Thank you very much to Paul, ZS1 Victor, and also to the rest of the repeater working group for keeping that system going. And with that, I'm going to move on to the synoptic chart for the one that was issued at 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock our time this afternoon, 12 hours UTC. Shows a huge high-pressure cell all the way from South America to the Western Cape. It shows a cold front which is off the Southern Cape now, but it was the tip of that swiped past us this morning to give us some rain. The Meteosat photo shows that cloud just slightly to the east of Cape Town, and also shows cold air south of us. And remember, the high-pressure cell goes anti-clockwise, so that cold air coming up from south of us is the reason why it's only 16 degrees outside now. Please stand by, the timer is going off. The good news is that the weather forecast for tomorrow is a clear sky with no rain, obviously, 14 to 25 degrees, and wind in the region of 28 kilometers an hour south-southeast. Friday and Saturday will be overcast, but 25 on Friday, 24 on Saturday, a possibility of some drips and drabs of rain on Saturday, but then Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, all clear skies, 24 on Sunday, 27 on Monday and 27 on Tuesday. So the little bit of rain we've had in the last few days and what we may get on Saturday are most welcome, but it's going to get warmer as the next few days go by. The sun has got 85 sunspots on it in groups, all on the northern hemisphere, and the solar flux index is 132. The K index is 2.5 at the moment. That's a funny number. 2.5. No, that must be out of date. Yeah, no, the solar... Sorry, I'll start that again. The sunspot number is 78, the index is 132, and the K index is 1 now. That makes sense. Because the band conditions for 80 and 40 are good by night, and 30, 20, 17, and 15 are good by both day and by night. So, good conditions there. The near vertical incident skywave forecast allows 40 meters to work well at lunchtime, 60 meters in the morning and the afternoon, and 80 meters by night. So it's pretty much the same as last week, and I think you can accept that it will remain much like this for quite a while until the sunspot number goes up a lot more than it is at the moment. We hope it does do that. And then finally, just in case you call in at the beginning, and I must say there were so many call-ins at the beginning that I doubt whether there'll be any still listening now who didn't call in at the beginning. If you do want to signify on 2 meters FM, please call now. I'm going to listen for a few seconds. ZS1DZ. No, I'm quite sure you've all fallen off your chairs and collapsed into a state of somnolence on the floor, trying to be resuscitated by your dog. From Born give you the telephone numbers you love to hate. Metro Emergency Medical Services telephone line, 24-hour-a-day hotline at Tygerberg Hospital, 0937 0300. That's 021-937 0300. The Traffic Management Center at Goodwood Disaster Management Center, where all the cameras on all the roads are monitored, 021-596-1999. That's 021-596-1999. ISCOM's 24-hour-a-day hotline is 086003766. That is 08600375666. And the City of Cape Town's 24-hour-a-day hotline for all municipal queries and complaints and reportages of anything that might have gone wrong, 0860103 089. I say again, 0860103 and then follow the prompts according to the department you want to get through to. Thank you for having stayed with me until now, if you're still there. And next week we'll do it all over again. It will be the 16th of November next week. So I look forward to that. In the meantime, remain radioactive, please. Listen, monitor, be willing to help, and come to the aid of your fellow Cape Townian. This has been ZS1 Delta Fox Romeo, and I've been operating ZS1 Delta Zulu, and I'm now going to relinquish this poor repeater, which has been wrung out of every drop of power it had for the last hour, and you can have it all to yourselves. Thank you very much for having been with me. Good night. ZS1 DFR, off and clear.
Good day, late calling ZS1 Charlie Mike.
Okay, Frank, thanks very much. Nice to hear you there. Have a good evening. ZS1 Charlie Mike.
ZS1 DFR, ZS1 FP.
Go ahead, Mike. ZS1 FP, ZS1 DFR.
I heard you mention that the link between 600 and 650 is not operational. I actually used it a little while ago. So maybe that's, I don't know how fresh that information is. Because Alman Tony, ZS1 TK, called me back on it, and it worked quite well. ZS1 DFR, ZS1 FP.
Mike, ZS1 FP, ZS1 DFR. The information that the Western Cape Repeater Working Group puts out is put out by the two guys who are totally in touch with what's happening. That is Jan, ZS1 Zulu, and Paul, ZS1 Victor. And I can't believe that they are not aware that it's been fixed, because somebody has to go up or go and deal with the link radios, which are on the two high sites, to make it work. Now, for the link to work, you've got to go in on 600, and your audio has got to come out on the 650. And somebody else has got to go in on the 650, and you've got to hear them on the 600. If that's what you mean, then I don't know how it's working, Mike, because the repeater working group says it's not fixed. ZS1 DFR.
Okay, so I'm looking at maybe it's gone on the blink, but it worked for me, definitely. You can confirm, speak to Tony, you can confirm that as well. ZS1 DFR, ZS1 FP.
Yeah, I really don't know, Mike. It's a UHF link, as you know. The VHF onto the 600 goes to the UHF link 434.650, which goes to a repeater, which then goes to Havakwa, which is then transmitted out on the 145.650. And that link, the back-to-back radios, as they call them, is officially broken. So I don't know how it's working. Anyway, I'm glad it is, but it's not supposed to be. Have a good evening, Mike, and thanks for letting me know about that. It's worth mentioning. When did you do that test, Mike, as a matter of interest? Is it in the last few days, over?
Dave, it was about a week ago, I guess. ZS1 DFR, ZS1 FP.
Okay, thanks for that, Mike. I'll see if I can find out what has happened. I can't believe that Paul would send out a bulletin that is not correct. That is not ZS1 Victor. ZS1 Fox Papa, thank you for letting me know. Do you have a good evening? I'm going to go and see about some supper. ZS1 DFR.
Yeah, the link was still working just for a short while, and then it was off again. ZS1OB.
Ah, that's a possibility. Thank you, ZS1 Oscar Bravo, ZS1 DFR. Yeah, okay, maybe it was fixed and broke again, Mike. That might account for it. ZS1 OB, thank you. And you commonly use the 650. I've heard you there many times, so you know about the 650 probably a lot more than we do. Thank you for the input, ZS1 Oscar Bravo, ZS1 DFR.
I was surprised by it myself. But then again, you know, next time I listened, it was off. Okay, cheers you all. Have a good night. Just want to be clear.
Thank you. Thanks for the info. That does probably account for it, Mike. And thank you to ZS1 Oscar Bravo. I think your name is Theo. Forgive me if I've got it wrong. ZS1 Oscar Bravo, ZS1 Fox Papa. This is ZS1 DFR.
ZS1 DFR from ZS1 Zulu Alpha Romeo.
Hello, Rian. Go ahead. ZS1 ZAR, ZS1 DFR.
Good evening, Dave. Can I give you a number quickly? The number is 31220. That is the SMS number for City of Cape Town electricity complaints, because nobody's got the patience to call the call center anymore. ZS1 DFR from ZS1 ZAR.
Yeah, that's a good point, Rian. I must say I still phone the 0860103089 number. I agree you need extra patience, but I still phone that. But you're right, 31220 as a SMS number or WhatsApp number to report electrical complaints. I think you can use that number for all complaints, can't you? ZS1 ZAR, ZS1 DFR.
Yes, I've only got it for electricity department. It's a SMS number, so you can SMS your complaint through, and you should get a response within about 15 seconds back on SMS. ZS1 DFR from ZS1 ZAR.
Yeah, no, good. Thank you very much for reminding me that. Yeah, I think most people know that 31220. I just report on phone numbers every week, but I guess I could add that to the report such that I remind people of that number as well. Thanks for doing so. And go well there in Brackenfell. Nice to hear you on the call, and I hope you'll join us most weeks. Oh, you can, of course, join us at the meetings too if you haven't already done so. Have a good evening and best wishes for the coming weekend. ZS1 ZAR, ZS1 DFR.
Same to you. Thank you, Dave. 73's ZS1 DFR from ZS1 ZAR.
Good night.